I'm gonna throw one in here on a quarterback situation I'm very worried about, and part of this to me is about the context around the rest of the division, because I'm gonna go with Cleveland here, and there's a couple of reasons why I'm very concerned. One, we've all on our separate shows on these podcast channel talked about Deshaun Watson and the problems with Deshaun Watson and the way he's playing right now. I'm only for a second here talking about the football player. The football player for Deshaun Watson hasn't been good enough. We all know that the Browns are locked into this, but where it gets really curious to me is that, frankly, this division is so good. There are so many opportunities in this division, and there are so many other teams in this division with quality quarterback answers. And the Browns, the rest of the roster, looks strong enough to me to be competitive with anybody. So if I'm sitting here looking around saying, man, every year they say, well, is this going to be Deshaun's year? If this is going to be Deshaun's year, you can try, not you being any of us, but I think over the course of the last year, many people could try and justify why there was rust or what needed to be broken through.
Right.
This year, there's no more of that. This is the ultimate you-know-what or get-off-the-pot year for Deshaun Watson. And if it doesn't work, no matter what the financial ramifications are, the Browns are going to have to move on, which creates a different level of pressure for a team that I think is built, other than the quarterback position, to be in the Super Bowl conversation. So I think that I'm absolutely worried about the quarterback room because of the pressure, the conversation, and the absolute moment that is facing Deshaun and the Browns right now.
Do you think, could this be the quarterback version of Odell Beckham Jr.? Because I feel like Odell Beckham Jr. had that beginning to his career. We're like, oh my God, transformational player, Hall of Fame caliber. Look at the talent, the ceiling, all these different things. And then he ran into injuries, other problems. It wasn't like it was just injuries. There were issues between he and Eli Manning. There were issues between he and Giants ownership. And then we've spent the expanse of years and years and years going, and we've finally gotten over it, I think. But when is he going to get back to that player? When is he going to be the Odell we remembered? It starts to feel like that's what the conversation is about Deshaun Watson. Because if he does not break through this year, how many years has it been since he was that transformational player that we thought was going to take over, a top 2 or 3 slot in the NFL perennially at the quarterback position? We're getting pretty distant from that time. And that to me, it starts to feel like that Odell thing where we're like, okay, we're still waiting on this guy. How long are we going to wait on this guy and keep talking about what he used to be or what he could have been?
I just wonder. Yes, Odell, definitely a great comp. We've seen running backs obviously do this. Other guys at other positions, Sean Merriman comes to mind of a guy who we thought was the next LT and just kind of faded pretty quickly. Has it ever happened to a quarterback? Like, this would be one of one. And I get that Deshaun's situation is one of one because he sat out the year and then the long suspension. We have never really seen that. So there's not a great one for one. This isn't oranges and oranges, right? But I can't remember another quarterback where we legitimately thought Deshaun Watson's a top, even if not 5, he's 6, 7. Like, he was a legit elite quarterback and he just fell off the planet and never regained that. That's why I'm kind of high on Deshaun Watson this year, because as Fitz kind of alluded to, you can make the excuses for the past few years. Last year he was injured. 2 years ago was the weird suspension year.
I can think of one now. One just popped in my head, actually.
Okay.
Dante Culpepper.
But he had the massive knee injury.
He did have the massive. No, okay, right. But I mean, that is a guy.
Right.
We were like, oh my gosh,
great. Yeah.
He's amazing. And then he had the knee injury, and that completely changed the trajectory of where.
Yes, there's been a few. Greg Cook, and I mean, there's been a couple injury related, but I can't. If Deshaun Watson is just this the rest of his career, and he stinks, and he's cut next year, who cares about the cap hit? There's really no comp for this. It's crazy how far
Frank,
he's fallen.
It's not just, remember, okay, so 2020 is the last year he was great, right?
Yeah.
This will be the 4th year since then.
I know.
And we can say, okay,
the
off-field, the sexual assault suits brought against him and all these different things. But then we entered the arena of an injury, a shoulder injury last year. So now we've gone from, here's all these external things that are a problem. But now physically, he had problems physically this season. So if that starts to break down, to me, absolutely. If he's injured, let's say he gets injured again this year, at some point you have to start going, okay, is he just breaking down as a player? Which also occurs. I think it's the off-field stuff. I don't think that's the factor anymore. Now it's on-field. Can he function, stay healthy, and actually put together a full season where he has some chemistry? Or do we have to watch Joe Flacco walk into the offense? It's amazing to me when Flacco walked on the field for that team last year. All of a sudden, I was like, "Oh my God, their offense is so vertical now." Now, granted, Flacco would screw up and throw terrible interceptions, but instantly we're like,
vertical.
We're like, look at Njoku, look at Amari Cooper. Like, it was just insane how the offense was pressing down the field instantly, and I'm like, it looks a lot better than what we've seen out of Deshaun at any point since he stepped on the field for them.
I will say this before we move on real quick. I'm actually really high on the Browns this year, and I'm really high in Deshaun Watson, just because, we've never seen this before where a guy just falls off the map. And last year, I'm not a big quarterback wins guy. Everybody knows that, but the Browns were 5-1 in his starts. Like I know that I'm not even going to sit here and stand on a soapbox for that, but he was functioning at a level where the Browns, if he stays healthy, go back and look at the second half of that Ravens game. It was unbelievable. The Browns are functioning at a level where if he just stays healthy, it plays like he did, and maybe gets a little more confidence. Maybe that team is the Ravens and the number one seed.
Didn't he play well in the Tennessee? Didn't he play well in the Tennessee game too? Like I believe in my mind,
I can't remember. Like yeah. But I mean, you go back. He had a couple of games where it was like glimpses at least. So I don't root for Deshaun Watson because of every other reason you could tell me. But on the field, I'm actually really high on him in the Browns this year.
Super telling that we're like, I saw some glimpses. Like, dude, you pay?
Yeah,
how much you paying this dude? I saw some glimpses.
and I always go back to the baseball thing. Like, sometimes you just get the yips, and when certain guys get the yips, you never get over it. Like, I wonder
how much the off-field. I wonder how much the off-field stuff messed with his confidence, because you're just looked at differently, right? Like, you have to have that swagger as a quarterback, and maybe you lose that when every single story written about you is you go into 18 different masseuses or whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying.
Especially in a world where they have that much talent and they have a perennial coach of the year candidate, feels like right now is Stefanski.
They're good. The Browns are good. The Browns are a good team. It's just all about Watson.